Hello friends, Vitali here. You're on the channel about business in Poland. I've been living in Poland for 8 years, helping entrepreneurs develop their businesses here. And I've encountered that there is often a huge difference in mentality. You've started a business, you've come here to Poland, and very often people don't understand. That is, they are surprised by the peculiarities of how Poles behave. And for them, it's normal because it's a different country, a different culture. It's practically a different Eurozone, so to speak, right? Where there are things, customs that we cannot change. We can either know them and adapt to them, using them to our advantage, or we can complain that people here are somehow wrong. So, in order for you not to have such an opinion, we have prepared an educational guide for you. These are the features of the business mentality here in Poland. What we encounter, what our clients encounter. And now you will be more consciously understand how to conduct business in Poland. The first thing our entrepreneurs face here, Ukrainian-speaking, Russian-speaking entrepreneurs, is that all processes here are resolved more slowly, more leisurely, and more lazily. Let's say in a relaxed manner, meaning you call the office at 3 in the afternoon and they're already not working. You call a client, say, hello, I want to buy from you. I came with money, and he says, no, I'm already resting. 4 in the afternoon, come on Monday, or better yet on Tuesday, some additional holidays, some other things. But overall, everything is very slow, negotiations are conducted slowly, decisions are made slowly. Again, if it's between us, not between our guys. Our guys met, everyone had coffee, and by the evening, they already opened a company together, and by tomorrow, they were already shipping goods. But if we're talking about a typically Polish business, unfortunately, decisions are made slowly. The second difference is that here, in fact, if you work with Poles, there are many different forms of doing business. It doesn't have to be a spool LLC. Limited liability company. These are various, not necessarily a sole proprietorship. These are various team partnerships, associations, clause, and more. But what might you encounter? Let's say today we signed a lease agreement for 2 buses with one company. They issue invoices for each bus separately to different companies, to different accounts. And accordingly, if a person is not careful, they might end up paying another company for a sub-account. When they started to figure out what it was, they said, well, it's a spook. That is, it's a company with 2 owners, each of whom conducts their own personal business activities separately. And they are united under a common brand. So it's an unclear form of ownership, but nevertheless, it can be like that. The third feature of the mentality, and it's important to understand, is the Polish language. And working in Poland, it will be very difficult for you if you don't speak Polish or don't have an employee who speaks Polish. Because firstly, all official communication with government bodies is in Polish. But you'll be lucky if you have a Russian-speaking accountant, and they are of a sufficient level. But mostly accountants also speak Polish. Websites and communications are also all in Polish. There are, for example, online payment systems that basically won't allow you to work with them or connect to the site if you don't have a site in Polish. Therefore, the Polish language. The fourth feature of the business mentality concerns accounting. Accounting here is not on your side. Unfortunately, as much as I would like to say that everything, well, except for what? If you hire your own accountant, make a non-disclosure agreement with them regarding commercial information and so on, they will be personally invested in your financial success. In other cases, if it's a contracting organization, then unfortunately, at the level of the law, they are required to maintain a rating of enterprises. If they see that something is wrong at the enterprise, it's good if they don't say anything. Just say, guys, this needs to be fixed, or this is incorrect. Some are very frightened, and Polish accountants are often particularly frightened. You ask them how to optimize, whether it's taxation here or something else. They look as if you're offering them a kidney. Sell, filter, and choose. Your words carefully there. Well, that is, your way of communicating with the accounting department can be somewhat bluntly put. But in principle, accountants are on your side because you pay them money and so on. Nevertheless, they cannot manipulate things for you. They cannot forge signatures for you. Yes, if you want something there, please do it yourself. Bring them ready-made documents so that if anything happens, they can say you did it. They won't file 0 reports. They need you to at least send them an email confirmation that yes, you had no income or something else. In other words, all the responsibility will be on your side. The fifth feature of the Polish mentality is narrow competencies. Many people encounter this. For example, if you want to call the tax office and get advice on taxes. So if you need advice on VAT, CT, PT, and so on, you'll be sent to all the different departments because different people handle everything. You ask a question in accounting, and they say it's not for them, it's for HR. HR says it's not for them, it's for the lawyer. The lawyer says it's not for them, it's for the tax consultant. He says, why did you come to me? You need to talk to your accountant first. And it's such a vicious circle. Most specialists have very narrow competencies. Point number 6. What is important for you to understand is signatures and initials. In Poland, a signature is when you write your name and surname in your handwriting with your pen. And initials are like a signature, some kind of squiggle, like in a passport, so to speak. Therefore, do not confuse it if you are asked to make a signature or a specific signature. You need to write your name and surname. Usually, when contracts are signed, initials are placed on each page, which is our signature. And at the end of the contract, where the parties' signatures are, you write your name and surname in full. Point number 7. Company seal. In Poland, it is not mandatory, it is not registered anywhere, and in most cases, it is not required. However, there are organizations that will not want to work with you if you do not have a seal. So they really need it. Like, how can a company not have a seal? Although in general, it is not mandatory. I lived for 5 years at a company quite comfortably without a seal, until the moment I needed to issue invitations for employees from other countries. That's when, the consulate likes it if there is a seal, preferably a bold one, preferably in red. So it's really necessary to have that official look, and it can be made at any print shop. Again, it is not mandatory here. But if you have made it, now always take it with you everywhere for signing all contracts. Point number 8, and this is such a concept as a setup is right. Poland is a law-abiding country mostly. And wherever you go to resolve matters, you can even have a dispute with the state and win in court. If you know the legal basis, if you have a good lawyer and so on, if you know your rights. Basically, Poland is about knowing your rights and demanding them accordingly. When you come to get a PESEL, meaning you have a job, you want to get a PESEL, you show your employment contract, they tell you what's the legal basis. If you don't state it, if you don't write it down, they simply won't issue it to you, the document, even though you have all the grounds for it. You need to know the law, the specific article of the law on the basis of which you are demanding this document. But this should be good news for you because if you are watching our channel, you are quite knowledgeable. And you already know how to answer most questions related to business. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, now is the perfect time to like and subscribe. Point number 9, these are sermons. Such a concept as the term of exhortation. That is, things are not resolved here the way they are with us. Like, that's it, they had a fight, that's it, go to hell, that's it, the contract is broken, and so on. No, you may not like each other, but you have a contract according to which the termination period of the contract is, let's say, 2 months. And for the gentleman's agreement, 2 months are needed. For company A, company B must pay, provide services. There is a contract termination period. Otherwise, there are some penalties or sanctions and so on. And it's important for you to know this too. That is specifically the termination period of various documents. Point number 10. This is the date of importance and the general understanding of when something comes into effect, because in Poland it happens that some documents, in order to come into effect, you sign them, but they will take effect, let's say, in a month when they appear in the registry. And sometimes it happens that you sign the documents, you send them, and you already have the right to use the results of this. That is, for example, with VAT, you submitted an application for VAT, and the next day you can already use it, even though you are not yet in the registry. You submitted an application for a residence card, a request, and while your case is being reviewed and it hasn't been confirmed yet, you already have the right to officially and legally stay in Poland. Point number 11. We noticed it once during one of the national holidays when a lot of people on the street were wearing t-shirts saying, "I am Polish," flags around the city, some symbols and so on. And overall it creates the impression that Poles are very proud of being Polish, of living in Poland. They love their country and they defend its interests. This is also, let's say, a marketing trick that you can play on. And if you are citizens of other countries, then there is a higher chance that a Pole will buy from Poles rather than from you, someone from other countries. Well, unless you are American, German, or French. Point number 12. Cheating the state is not cool. Unfortunately, in our country, entrepreneurs often do not pay taxes, or they pay just the minimum. Just enough for the state to leave you alone. There is even a concept called tax burden. I recently discussed this with my friend, and I hadn't really realized it before. It's when you pay, for example, 1% of your turnover in Ukraine so that they don't bother you, and you work like that, channeling the rest into company expenses. But in Poland, no matter how much I talked with accountants, they say, no, well, you pay income minus expenses. If an audit comes to you and you can justify it, show everything officially, even if you're dealing with millions, there won't be any questions for you. And on the other hand, it's not customary to deceive the state here. Moreover, if you are at home doing some illegal activity, I don't know you. Let's say a girl who came to Poland and started at home doing eyelash extensions, then a Pole will report you and he will be considered a national hero. You know, it's like they just exposed a bandit, you understand? So here it's not customary. No one will call him a rat here. Here, it's customary not to deceive in such matters. Of course, not everyone likes cash if there are any. Of course, there are gray schemes here. And of course, they are very proud that they can deceive the European Union. For example, it asked to get into that feeding trough. There are various subsidies and so on and so forth. But that's a topic for another video. Yet, nevertheless, deceiving the European Union is possible, but deceiving Poland is not cool. Point number 13. A handshake means less here. I mean specifically gentlemen's agreements, like when a guy says something, a guy does it, right? We met, we agreed verbally, no. Very often there are cases where you talked, everything seemed fine, we're working, and then it turns out we're not working. And why? Because your counterparty says, no, we discussed it, we didn't sign a contract, there's no paperwork, so paperwork plays a very important role here. So, but the next point is that an email is also a form of documentation, so at least you need to agree via email. 14. A feature of the Polish business mentality is long post payments, but because there are open registries here, and this, by the way, is the next point, you can check your counterparty in advance because it's easier to collect money through official means here. It's easier to find a person. Because of this, people are not afraid to pay later. And in general, a culture of post payments is accepted here. If we talk about the transport sector, for instance, these post payments can be from 3 months and longer. Accordingly, when starting your business, sometimes you need to have a good financial cushion just to survive until the moment when you start receiving money from post payments. The next feature is limited experience working with foreigners. That is, I have repeatedly encountered information, such feedback from fellow entrepreneurs, that Poles do not want to bother with working with foreigners because they themselves do not fully know how to handle all these permitting documents. Lighting, permits, all these additional papers that they don't have to deal with if they hire a Polish European. And unfortunately, they have to do it if they hire someone from other countries. And very often our representatives, our entrepreneurs, they know more about issues of employment of foreigners, about issues of legalization of Poland, than even representatives of the local business fauna, local business community. How about that? The next feature is understanding the importance of addresses. Starting from the fact that here, then there are different concepts. For example, in Ukraine we only have regions, but here there are additional layers like gmina, powiat, and so on. And accordingly, each urzund, that is each government body, is tied not just to a city. For example, the tax office is not just in Kraków, but Kraków Krowodza, Kraków Podgórze. If you simply go to the wrong department, even if they are located nearby or something else, they will just send you away. Please go to your department. So it's important for you to know exactly just the address, where your business is located or something else, yes. But specifically, which government bodies are tied to this address, meaning which departments? The penultimate point is the attitude towards you from government bodies and consultants. Very often, government bodies here are kinder than, well, unfortunately, kinder than in our countries when you go to get a residence card. They don't immediately reject you. They try to help you with how you can legally proceed, what opportunities you have to present certain documents or meet the state's requirements. In other words, they mostly act as the good cop. The law acts as the bad cop, stating that if you want to obtain something, you need to fulfill certain requirements. And they, as the good cops, often calmly advise you on how to do this. Why calmly? Because they have decent salaries, good working conditions, and overall there are some ratings and complaints can be made against them too. So accordingly, they kind of consult you. When we helped refugees here to obtain various documents, these refugee girls were almost in tears. They would enter these offices, the Zeus, with their heads down, thinking they were about to be almost beaten. The girls, calm and humorous, trying to speak Ukrainian, help there with some social benefits or something else. And our girls come out and say, how come they are so positive? Why aren't they as well disposed towards us? So once again, in general, government bodies here are kinder. And the last point. This is very important to know in the first year of running your business. If you plan to develop far and high, in the first year of business, you are earning your business karma, meaning, once again, if you plan to take loans in the future, work with some major contractors, obtain a residence permit in Poland, and so on, it's important to ensure that right from the start of the company, or at least by the end of the first year, you finish well, because you will be showing this history to everyone and proving your creditworthiness and, let's say, business capability. Friends, these are all the insights. For today, well done for watching until the end. Thank you. Like and subscribe to our channel. Share your insights, observations, and pressing topics regarding the Polish business mentality in the comments. This will be very valuable for the business community that we are creating together. Thank you. See you in the next episodes.